Welcome to the Real Estate Roundtable Podcast, where we sit down with some of the most successful real estate agents, brokers, and team leaders to learn about their journeys in this industry. I'm your host, Art Bettuzzi, and as a seasoned real estate agent of 29 years, I'm always fascinated by the stories of how others found success in this business. On this podcast, we'll be talking to our guests about the obstacles they overcame, the lessons they learned, and the tips and strategies they're using in today's ever-changing market. Whether you're a real estate agent, broker, team leader, investor, or just someone interested in real estate, you're in the right place. Our guests come from a variety of backgrounds, and they all have unique insights to share. We want to have fun with these interviews, but we also want to make sure that you come away with actionable tips that you can implement in your own business. New episodes will be released weekly, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for joining us on the Real Estate Roundtable Podcast. Let's get started. All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is Art Bettuzzi. Welcome to the Real Estate Roundtable Podcast. Hey, I'm joined today by a guy that I was introduced to just a little bit over a year ago from a mutual friend of ours. And I got to tell you, ever since I met this guy, I have been just blown away by the breadth of his experience in business. And the first time I met him, we talked a lot about business plans and the necessity for business plans. And that just, from a real estate point of view, sort of blew my mind because most people don't think about business plans when it comes to real estate, right? And then I have found that he has morphed into just an amazing program that he's put together. So I'm going to let him talk a lot about this. Please join me in welcoming my guest, Mr. Brandon White. He is the founder of Mauna Mortgage. Brandon, welcome to the podcast.
Art, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Well, me too, because as I said, Brandon, when we first met and you were kind enough to come and talk to my students about the importance of a business plan as a real estate broker, it was a game changer for me because I, as a business owner, and have used a business plan throughout my career in all the different real estate that I've done, but the average real estate broker doesn't think about it because they're like, I'm just one guy. What do I need a business plan for? But I thought you made that so interesting and clarifying to those people, and so did they. They were tremendously interested. So before we get into all the different things, I always like to ask people, what's your origin story? Like, how did you get to be Brandon White today? Where are you from? What'd you do? How'd you get here?
Well, this is going to be a little bit crazy to be talking on a real estate podcast. That the guy you had on started his career on the internet in the mid-90s. And I started, built, and later sold to a large media company what became the largest recreational fishing site on the internet. That's how I started. I got there because I thought I was going to become a lawyer, Art, and I graduated from college and actually went back to a tree nursery where I worked. I was working on tree nursery, digging big trees, like giant trees that you move with a crane. And my mom didn't think that was a good idea, that she invested in her son to be like, hey, look, there's probably more for you here. I went back to school. I was working on my master's in psychology, and I was been a fisherman my whole life. And the internet in 1996 was pretty early, and I was young, and I was like, look, I think I can put a fishing magazine online. So I started what was really one of the earliest social networking sites. I was doing affiliate marketing. I got a t-shirt sent to me by Jeff Bezos because I was one of the first, now called the associate program. Actually, it's called the affiliate program. But when it started, you were called an Amazon associate. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, Art, because You could put a bookstore online for fishing and we didn't have to have any inventory. And I had one of the original t-shirts that he sent out to the original associates. So that's really where I cut my teeth on the internet. I mean, I had a crazy story there. I had never raised money. I had a partner from Sequoia Capital, which I write about in my book, which you have, show up on my doorstep. He writes me a check for 50 grand on the way home. And within a few weeks, we raised $1 million. And that's sort of how the story started. It wasn't, I'm giving you the abridged version, Art, but I did buy the stock market crashed in 2001, which some people here will remember, some people won't, but the dot-com crash. And I bought the company back from investors. I rebuilt it and later sold it to a large public media company. So that's really where I started. After that happened, well, in between, I was running it as a side hustle for many years until the end when I sold it. But I was a venture capitalist. I worked for 2 venture firms investing in technology, consumer products, security, and the internet. And then I have since founded software companies, a service company. I was a member of a team that did some financial management of bonds in California. And then now I find myself building a personal holding company to see what we can do there with the lead company being Mauna Mortgage. And that's where I am. I never thought I'd get into the mortgage business.
Well, we're going to get to the mortgage business because I find that fascinating, especially with what you're going to be able to do with real estate brokers.
Sure.
But I want to just take a step back because, as you said, you are actually a best-selling author on Amazon for your back of the napkin business plan books, which you can all get. There's a link down below. Please feel free to order this book. Again, it's amazing to me. It's fascinating that how easy you have made it in this book for the average Joe to be able to build a business plan that they can run their business from. So why don't you take us into that? Because how do you come from that background to going, yep, business plan?
Well, I did skip. So I did get my master's in psychology, and then I got an MBA from UNC Chapel Hill in between. Ironically, after spending $110,000, I'm not sure I remember ever having anyone explain to me how to do a full business plan quickly. And my first business plan was 55 pages long. I think the book was longer than that to figure out how to do it. And I just thought that was crazy. And in the modern world, you don't need to write that long form business plan. You need to get a business plan quickly and go try it and then be able to alter your business plan. So I came up with this idea that you could build a business plan originally in 13 slides. When I wrote the book, I got it down to 11. And, I don't want to take credit for this completely. Silicon Valley, where I live, really has innovated that idea where old school business plans just aren't a thing. So I said, could I take 2 decades of experience? And I sort of skipped over some things there. I've raised money from Sand Hill Road venture firms. I've done my own investing as an angel. So I've been on both sides. And I basically said, could I take all the things that I learned, all the mistakes that I made, and just put this in a really simple to follow book? And in order to make it simple, that it's not 60,000 words, could I get it down to 20,000 words, which is really a long blog post. And it's actually 22,000 words. And if you should be able to read this book and get a draft of your business plan based on our tagline, which is so easy you can build a business plan on a flight from San Francisco to New York. You can probably read this in 2 hours or less, and you can start working on it right away with the formulas that I did. And, I'm happy, Art, to sort of give the 11 slides. When we did that in the mastermind, I think that I participated in with you. So I'll just go down it real quick. You got to have an elevator pitch. You have a problem slide, solution slide, market opportunity, go to market, your traction and milestones, your competition, your financials, your team, your funding, and summary. And I've been working in the training business, basically was teaching a course on how to build your business plan for a bunch of celebrities out there, and I really needed a way to simplify it. And quite candidly, Art, over the years, people just keep asking me that you're an educator in the real estate business. People ask you the same questions. I mean, different class, same common questions. And I was like, could I just build this into a system? And that's what I did. And I put these things in formulas. And just to give you an example, like a problem slide, the problem slide shouldn't be any more complicated than a person tries something, their pain is existing solutions are broken because. And real estate people don't seem to think in the way of a business plan. They think of in a way like they're a solopreneur, they're going to do the marketing, all that, but you need a business plan. And what problem?
Wait, hang on though. What? Because as I've met thousands of realtors, and you might have a handful that have a business plan. Why does a real estate broker need a business plan?
Because if you don't have the business plan, you don't understand what your plan is, how you're different in the market, and how you're going to make yourself different, which drives your sales and marketing. So if I'm a real estate agent, I live in Half Moon Bay. If I'm a real estate agent in Half Moon Bay, what's going to be my specialty? How am I going to differentiate myself from all of the other agents that are all saying the same type of thing? Am I going to be better at customer service? And if I'm going to be better at customer service, what does that mean in the way of the team I need to build? And what does that cost? And what is the average revenue that I'm going to get from the sale of a house? And what can I afford in that business? I think, Art, sometimes real estate brokers think of the money they get as income to themselves or salary type money. And I would argue that you should be thinking of that as revenue into your real estate brokerage business. Even if you're under EXP or Coldwell Banker or whoever, you're still running your own business, your own team. So just as simple as what can you afford? If you're going to say you're going to differentiate yourself on customer service and communication, you're not going to be able to do that alone. So you're going to need a team of people. So what does that mean? How are you going to market? Maybe you get leads from your bigger brokerage that you're a part of, but that's not going to completely solve a solution. So maybe you're going to actually knock on doors. Maybe you're going to do events. I don't know what that is, but if you don't build a plan, then you can't execute on it. And now you're just reacting. I'll go out on a limb here. You tell me if I'm wrong, Art, but real estate agents will see someone else do something. Oh, well, they're sending postcards out to Alsace-Lorraine neighborhood. I'm going to do that too. That's not a business plan. That's not a strategy. That's reacting. And now you're just reacting with no strategy. And then you're like, oh, well, I don't know. That didn't get anything. Little did you realize that they were sending that postcard out once a quarter for 5 years so that they could farm that area. And I know that what I'm talking about here is the common things, and I'm using that on purpose because it is, but is that going to be your strategy? It doesn't have to be. If it is, what does it look like and how much is it going to cost? Because now that you have a business plan and you know that in order to send that postcard out that cost about $1 a mailing in general here, we're talking, and you're going to send it to 10,000 homes a quarter. So now you need $10,000 in profit. So now you can start to back out your plan to say, well, I've got to get $50,000 in revenue, which is, I'm making this up out of my head, $3 million in sales. How am I going to get there? Now that's a plan, but just hoping and reacting, I think you can pick up some deals. I think you can probably sell some houses, but I don't think that you're going to get, well, I don't think you're going to buy the 10,000 square foot home yourself by reacting like that. So the plan really gives you that roadmap of where you are, how you're different, and how you're going to get there.
Well, and you know what about that? What's interesting about that, Brandon, is that if you were to talk to top team leaders in real estate, almost all of them have some form of a plan. Maybe they don't call it, oh, it's an official business plan, but they will sit down with their team and they will, come up with their annual goals. They will come up with their quarterly goals. They will come up with their monthly goals, and then they'll come up with an implementation plan, right? And that's how and why they're the most successful teams, is because they have a plan. I mean, what's that old quote? It says, if you're not working your plan, you're working somebody else's plan, right? I
And
think it was either Jim Rohn or one of those guys that said that. And that's always sort of stuck with me, is that you're working somebody else's plan. And I will tell you, my experience with people coming into this industry is that they come in for a variety of reasons, which is great. But then past not knowing what to do, because you can learn what to do, they then don't know where they want to go. And I thought when you talked about this whole concept of brokers having, and by the way, for those of you from around the country, in Illinois, the lower level is the broker, and the higher level is the managing broker. I know in other states that the broker is the one who runs the show and the salesperson. So wherever you're from, we're talking about the base license here. We're talking about everybody that goes out there and is working in the field. You need a business plan, because if you have one, now you have a way to go. I often will say, Brandon, that people will get in their car. When somebody says, why do I need this? I said, when you get into your car to go someplace that you've never been, what do? They go, I'll just put it in my GPS. And I go, right. I said, the GPS is just a fancy name for a map, right?
exactly. That's exactly right. I think one of the things too, as you're talking, what I see in real estate agents is a mindset shift that needs to happen if you want it to happen. So do you want to make a living, or do you want to build a business? Do you want to be showing homes all weekend? Or do you want to have a business that shows teams every weekend? Do you want to have a situation where everything relies on you? Or do you want to be able to take a vacation and still sell homes? That's the difference between being a real estate broker, wherever you sit, and earning a living and building a business. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. I will say that for me in my career, building businesses has been way better than building a living. And I would add to that, Art, that business that you're building, even as a real estate broker who's building a team, you're creating wealth, because that's an asset that's worth money. And if you build it correctly as a business, it doesn't rely 100% on you, which means that's sellable. And I don't want to get into all the rules, and you know all that, Art, around that stuff, but you're building an asset. And if you're just earning a living, you have a single point of failure and it's not wealth building. Now, you could get that money and invest it in something, but that's a different strategy. And I think a lot of the times real estate people just don't see it that way. But if they did and they built a plan, they could sit down really quickly and they would start to understand things. Or if they're in a small town, I'm making this up, Art, like scope the market. How much is really there to have? And in order to get and make your goal of $500,000 a year, how much of that market can you get? And if that is 75% of the market because you build a business plan, you realize that that's probably going to be really hard to attain. I'm not saying don't go for it, but what that would allow you to do in your market opportunity slide is to say, you know what? I got to do 2 more regions and they got to be adjacent. And then I can make my $500,000, instead of not being able to make it. And then, for lack of a better way to say, crying about it because you didn't do a business plan to figure that out in the first place.
Right. Well, and two, whenever I coach people, my new coachees, first thing we do is we sit down and we go through what's your goal and how are we going to get you there? And we back into it. We start with the goal number, and the goal is created by all the different facets of their life that people don't think about. They're like, yeah. By the way, the most common answer I get when I say to somebody, how much do you want to make in your first year in real estate? What do you think that number is, Brandon?
I don't know. They tell you $1 million?
Nah. 100,000.
They want to make 100,000.
They want to make $100,000 a year. That is the most common answer when I ask that question.
Well, that seems like really easy if you have a plan.
Well, again, it may be. It may be. But I always say, okay, why? Why is it 100,000? Well, because I've always wanted to make 100,000. All right. Well, is that enough of a reason for you to get up in the morning? Because you always wanted to make 100. You've always had the ability, but you haven't been getting up making 100,000. So my point is that when you start people thinking about all the different elements, and you sort of talked about it when you said, what are you going to put back into your business? Because you may make 100,000, but how much of that is being spent to generate the business that you have? What are you spending? What are you putting back in your business? People in this industry, I'm not talking about the top performers. I'm talking about the average person getting in, don't really think about that.
And I think that's the mistake that I've seen. And I think it causes, and you know much more about it. I've taught real estate agents how to do their business plan, not as long as you, but it feels like the ones that don't do that are the ones that fall out and churn, because there is a very high churn rate of real estate agents, and that probably a lot of them didn't have to happen.
Right. Absolutely. I think the churn is what is it? It's within the first year, 70% of anybody who gets a real estate license in this country is out of real estate within their first year.
Wow.
Yeah, it is a very high churn rate. And like you said, it didn't have to happen. I mean, I do think people come into the industry with unrealistic expectations, but because of what they see on TV, and we won't even go into that. All right. But they come in with some unrealistic expectations. But I've also seen people come in who are hard workers, they just show me what to do and I'll do it. And they'll get out there, and some companies don't train them on what to do. Some companies don't hold their hand through the process. So they churn out because it's not what they thought. However, if they have a business plan in place, and if they have the goal, because you know where you're going, how do we get there? And that's where, I had that aha moment for the average broker. I mean, I've run businesses, I've run buildings, and we've had pro formas, which are just numerical business plans, all numbers. We've had to do those. But the average realtor, nobody says to them, what's your business plan? And I've said to my students, you want to impress a brokerage? Walk in the door with a business plan. Say, this is my business plan. How are you going to help me execute it?
I agree. It's a very different approach to the whole idea. And it really just comes down to, like you're saying here, it's a business. Do you want to build a business, or do you want to build this solopreneur thing? The other part that a business plan does for you is you can articulate it. An example, you have a product to take to a bigger brokerage. And as importantly, that thing's for your team members. So when you sit down and and you say, hey, Art, here's what I'm doing. Here's the market I'm going into. Here's my marketing tactics. Here's the team I'm going to need. You might even need capital. Like, a lot of people don't, that's what a business plan will tell you. Like, you actually might need to invest capital in your business. And without the business plan, now you're just reacting. You're like, oh, Art, man, I had to write $5,000 marketing number, or $5,000 out of my account last month, and blah, blah, blah. Well, you wouldn't be moaning about it if you knew about it, and you'd know about it if you planned it. And then it's just like, this plan is not just, it's a roadmap, it's the X where you're going, and it's a communication tool. In fact, it's even a communication tool to your potential customers, because a customer wants to do business with people who they believe or can see are dialed in. Because they're like, if they're going to do that with their business, wow, they're going to do that with my home transaction. I can trust this person. I'm not saying you have to go give them your 11 slides, but you may sit them down and give them your first 3 slides or 4 slides that may have your elevator pitch, the problem you solve for them, and the solution on how you do it different than another real estate agent, especially if you're trying to be a listing agent, right? Like, how are you going to convince that homeowner that you're the best person to sell it? And if you come in with a plan, they're going to believe that you are going to do the same thing to sell their home, which now you have trust. And I know these things, maybe for some of your listeners who are pros, may be saying, oh, well, that's pretty obvious. Blinding flash to the obvious. Well, saying something that's blinding flash to the obvious and executing on it, I don't know about you, Art, but I've seen her. There's a big delta there sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to get people that will say, well, of course that's what you would do. And then you count 10 real estate brokers and you go, how many of you are doing that? And you'll get some. Yeah, I do it. Okay. So are we at 50%? Are we at 30% that are doing it? And do you want to distinguish yourself? Then be part of the 30% that's doing it. Don't be part of the other 70% going, yeah, we know what they're doing, but I don't have to do it because I'm special and people are gonna, oh, what's that other industry I'm going to get into? Because they just, can't focus on it.
Well,
That's a huge thing.
Tell me if I'm wrong, Art, that when you get people and you do trainings on continuing education and you ask that question and you see the hands who actually have the plan, do you even need to ask who is actually in the top quartile of performance in that class at that point?
No. It's the people who are making the most money are the people who have their hand up that says, I have a business plan. I use a buyer's agency agreement. They do all the things that great real estate brokers and agents do across the country. They just, their hands up because they're doing it. And, I grew up, I've been doing this 29 years, and I met people that when the computer came on board, this was 95, 96. So about the time you were getting started and I had people going, we don't use computers. We've been doing this for decades. We know what we're doing. And 2 years later, they're out of the business because they didn't know how to adapt and how to use the tools. And we're seeing another technological, advancement period right now. And there are people in this business that are not embracing social media and how to manage themselves or how to market themselves via social media. And they're starting to go, yeah, I need to go do something else. Right.
Yeah. I think that's basically what is happening. And, I know I'm completely biased because I wrote a book. I make like $5.75, Art. So not buying my Tesla X with the book. But the truth is that really simple plan, and as importantly, the execution of it, that's what differentiates the people that I've seen in this industry. And actually really in most industries, I mean, some tech industries, some tech stuff that I've done, and I have a software company, like you have to be smart, right? You need to really invent something, or it's very technical. This business is a known business. Transactions, some of them are more complicated than others, but the basics is this is a human relationship. So if you have a plan, that means you have your systems and processes, your SOPs, standard operating procedures, documented for your team. And now it's repeatable and predictable. And when that happens, sadly, I was talking to someone the other day, Art, and I was talking about what we were doing. And I was like, have you ever met anybody who moves and says, yeah, I want to do that again? Like, no, I've never, I generally never meet. And why is that, Art? That's because we're not performing well. It really is. Now, the people that do answer, and there are some, they will tell you the experience was straightforward. It was easy. It was a little stressful, of course. We're talking about money. People get stressed with money. This is the biggest asset purchase in general that any American's going to have. And that's really important. But the ones that did, there was execution of some plan that allowed that customer to get through that anxiety easily. And, what I say is, if you are not allowing, in our business, but this is the truth with anything, if you're not getting that customer to baking cookies for their open house, successfully, then you're failing. And planning and that type of process gets you there. Winging it does not.
No, 100%. 100%. You got to plan and you got to work your plan. Absolutely. Hey there, Real Estate Roundtable podcast listeners. I want to take a moment to tell you about our sponsor, I Love Real Estate School. If you're looking to get your real estate license or fulfilling your continuing education requirements, I Love Real Estate School's got you covered. As an Illinois licensed school, they offer the state-required broker pre-license course, managing broker pre-license courses, post-licensing courses, and continuing education. And the best part, you can take the courses either through their live stream with a live instructor or online home study. So no matter where you are, you can get the education you need to take your real estate career to the next level. I Love Real Estate School is committed to helping you succeed in the industry. That's why they offer comprehensive, high-quality education at an affordable price. So, if you're ready to start your real estate journey or stay up to date with your continuing education, head on over to iloverealestateschool.com today to learn more. So now what's interesting, Brandon, is that since we've met and we talked about the whole business plan thing and the interest in that, you have, got yourself involved in I like to think of it as real estate adjacent, with what you're doing now. And this is one of the main reasons that I wanted to have you come talk to our group here, to our listeners, because I think that you are really thinking your way through this industry, which you didn't grow up in, and you didn't have, you don't have all the luggage and the baggage and the garbage about what you can and can't do in a business as you decided to create this mortgage business. So why don't you take us through how you get to be here today as the founder of Mauna Mortgage?
Well, I can tell you that a year ago, I wouldn't have guessed I'd be talking to you about being in the mortgage business. However, I had an exit from a financial company, and, guardian angel that I have gave me the opportunity to really sit back and say, what do I want to do next? And where are there problems? Where are there a market that is ripe for disruption? It's traditional. It believes it should do things this way. It has a chance to be really, I don't know, the word is, I use the word disrupt, Art, but revitalized, or in a way that you could make it better. So I really did it. I have a whiteboard on the other side of my office here, the studio, and I started putting down industries, mainly because, Art, and I don't know about you or the listeners out there, but I've had a horrendous experience in customer service across multiple industries in the last few years. Terrible. I mean, everything from your airline, trying to change an airline ticket that won't change online, and I find myself yelling into the phone, agent, 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 agent 50 times. I mean, how many times does that happen? I'm sure it's happened to you too, Art.
Oh, yeah.
Or pressing 1 as hard as you can, or 0 to talk to a human. I mean, getting some, and look, I'm not beating on AI. I'm giving a talk on AI. I'm a techie guy, but some stupid robot talking to me about the wrong question, just taking me down these rabbit holes on these customer service calls that are just absolutely ridiculous and wasting my time. And I really purposefully sat back, building a business plan, ironically, and saying, okay, where is there an opportunity to just provide customer service? And where could you just do customer service, executing it with excellence, and disrupt an industry and win. And there were some other parameters for me. There was large transaction value, small percentage you get, but you can do volume, and that small percentage adds up to a real business number. And in the financial company I was in, we managed a lot of hundreds of millions of dollars, and we got 2.5%. So not a big percentage, but when you're managing 7, 8, and $900 million, it adds up.
Right.
And as a venture capitalist, that's where early in my career, that's what you do. Venture capitalists generally get about 2% management, 2 to 2.5, maybe 3, some people, and 20% of the profits. That not huge, but when you're talking about managing hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, and getting companies that return billions of dollars, 20% can add up, even when it's split among the partnership. So where could I see that dynamic? And then where could I disrupt a approach where there's more solo people, where a team just simply wins and the economics work? And I have been involved in the real estate business. I mean, I've trained real estate agents on business plans. I've been a real estate investor myself. I have an investment property. I have other sort of tangential things you and I were talking about. I own water permits for the town of Half Moon Bay, which sort of sounds crazy, but it's a finite number. And back in the day, you could buy them for $7,500, and now they go for $110,000 because you can't get them. And new homes here on the coast of California have to be hooked up to the water facility. You don't have a well. So I'm just demonstrating that it is a real estate product, right? That I've been involved in. And I have a friend who is a mortgage broker, and he was talking about how his business, and it's really lead generation and relationships and these things, on top of the fact that we are in a down market. I mean, there's a lot of transactions happening, quite candidly. If you look into the research, people say home sales are down, blah, blah, blah. We're in markets currently right now where they're only on the market for 8 days, and, they're signing contracts in 3. We're being pressed to close in 14 days. So that is happening, but you got to dig into the research to see that and to see those markets. And as I thought about it more, and I was talking to actually my wife, who always has these moments where she listens to me and she's like, "Oh, do that." I know your wife's probably very similar, Art, right? Beth is,
"Oh yeah.
Hey, Art, it's right in front of you." Like, right. But
yes.
you need that person in your life to do that. And she's like, you should just go disrupt the mortgage business. And I thought about that, and I said, I think I can. So that's been in it 5 months, but coming at it from a very different approach, where as I looked at the relationships, Art, I really didn't understand why the mortgage person, who traditionally has been really a single point of failure, quite candidly, works as a mortgage broker and a processor. And that's really, and maybe some of them have bigger teams, but that's really the setup. And they are more of a receiver than they are a giver. So they say they're on the team, but are they really on the team? Meaning, real estate brokers seem to view mortgage people, service people, not unlike the title person, the insurance person, the appraiser. These are just people in the or things in the transaction that the real estate agent needs to get the customer to the closing table to get paid. If we're just breaking it down, and as a business person, I'm not emotional about this, Art. Like, it is purely a business thing for me. Is how does this work, and how can it be better? And I didn't understand why the mortgage brokers never gave deals to the agents, and yes, they're helping the agent, just like the title company and the insurance person and the appraiser and whoever else is involved in transactions sometimes. But, and they say that's the team, but are you really acting as a team member? Team member to me means you're giving back more than just like if they're giving you business, you're giving them business. How does that, in my world, that's how it always has worked. And I didn't find that. I went to real estate agents and I said, well, how many, do you have a mortgage broker? Oh yeah, I have a mortgage broker. I've been working with them for 15 years or her. They're great. How many deals has your mortgage broker give you? Does your mortgage broker give you deals? Oh, they give us deals. No. Okay, Art. How many in the last 12 months? And there's about that silence that just happened.
Right.
And I said, well, that doesn't feel like a real team. How could our mortgage, a mortgage company that we created, how could that give back? How could that actually double their business? And what I figured out was that we could help with marketing. Why wouldn't we help with marketing? Why wouldn't we give back leads to the real estate agent? Because, Art, ironically, if you run the numbers in a business plan, you can afford to do that. And what we are building, if in that business plan, isn't the idea that we do 2, 3, 4, 5 transactions and make a living. It's we're going to do 100, 1,000, 3,000 deals a month that allows us to basically have a team approach where you don't have a single point of failure and you have the full support of a real team with a real plan. Our SOPs are very clear. I will tell you exactly what our people are doing for you, the broker, every day of the week to make you more money and to align with you better, that we're all working together to get that customer the house they want or the investment property they want and to the table to close it so that we can get paid. We're incentivized to do that. And I believe in relationships that give back. And I don't mean sending you a box of chocolates at Christmas. I mean putting real money into your account. And that was the premise. And I find myself now in the mortgage business disrupting it and potentially upsetting a lot of people, not real estate agents. They're quite happy. They've never seen it work like this. And they're skeptical, or like, they're skeptical. Of course they're skeptical. And if all we say is, just give us a chance. What do you have to lose? If this works and we actually give you leads, isn't that good for all of us? And, then a relationship is born out of it. So I know that was a long story, but it was a methodical, thoughtful process that I got into it. And we do have a team approach. We do not have a single mortgage broker and a loan processor. So the team is deeper and there's more to it. And it's a dedicated team dedicated to real estate broker so that they understand that it's a real team member. In fact, it's a free extra person for them that they're not paying for, that will save them time and make them money.
Okay. So we need to unpack some of that stuff because, I wanted you to get through your explanation so that I can understand it and so that I can then go back. Now, if I'm hearing you right, and I know I am, that you're saying that your team, this group of people, are going to be working with me as a real estate broker, real estate agent, salesperson, whatever you are in your state. And you're going to help me generate leads for me to sell them either a property, have someplace that they want to buy. That's what I'm hearing.
That's it.
Okay. And I don't pay you anything because I can't.
No.
And so what do you get out of it?
Well, we get a relationship. If it works and you believe that we can service that customer, then you would use our service as a mortgage broker. But it's not required because we can't service all mortgages. And we don't claim to be the magic fixer. We can do great deals and we can get you out of a bind and we can do all that, but it's not required. It's just simply good business.
Okay. And you've been doing this now for a little while. So why don't you talk to me about what you've been doing, how it's been working, the reaction of the marketplace, and sort of what your plans are for the future. Not all in one sentence, of course, but why don't you start there?
Well, once we get past that's too good to be true, and we get past that, and then they say, hey, let's do something. And let me tell you how it plays out. We don't always instantly get them a lead, right? That's not, I don't want listeners to think like that's a benefit of our relationship. But sometimes they say to us, well, I don't have a mortgage broker who runs a team like you do. I've never had a mortgage broker tell me that you're going to do this exact plan every week and actually do it. So let's see if you can do it. And then they try us and they say, holy smokes, I've never seen that, because it's hard to implement without a multiple person team. So that happens. And then in some cases, we actually give them a lead or two or three. We're like, hey, here's a person, they're interested in a house. Here's what they want. You should, this is an opportunity for you. And they actually can't believe that we actually did that. And like you said, there is no form of compensation required. It is free. That is not against the law to give free things that don't have a price, right? There's no anything. In fact, some things we might not even be able, like I said, to service. And that's okay with us. Like the universe works in that way. So if it works out, then sure, we could service that customer, but there's absolutely no requirement to be able to do that. And the reaction is, I just can't believe that you would do that. And from a business person's perspective, my bet financially is that net, it all works out and pays off, because we can deliver on our promise to close when we say we're going to close with a system that works. And we are trying to double your business. In fact, if you double your business, Art, everybody wins. Like the ecosystem wins. So it's almost as if I'm willing to put it out there, Art, and say, we'll compete on just our excellence. And if we're not good, then don't use us. Right? I mean, that's basically what I'm saying is I'll put up the money and the chance and bet on us. So what do you have to lose to try it once? And once they try it, they just keep coming back and we're honest. I mean, one of the things that I found, Art, is a lot of the problems in these transactions isn't that there's something technically hard. It's that lack of communication. And a lot of that lack of communication, I literally broke down a mortgage broker's day by the hour. And there's not enough hours in the day for them once they get above a pretty small threshold of deals, because they just have to do too much. And they're trying to market. So maybe 1 month they have an up month. The next month they don't get any loans because they couldn't market while they were closing loans. So now they're back into this. And it's just this crazy hump. And if you as a broker get caught in between, you're not getting serviced. Well, because we have a team, we actually can do it, because I and the team modeled our time by hour every day to make sure that we could deliver on what we promise. And that's really the secret sauce. Happy to give people the plan. It's not the plan, it's the execution of the plan. And execution of the plan is hard when you don't have those standard operation certain SOPs written. You don't have them mapped out. We have maps, we have manuals. We built all of that around this system so that it wouldn't fail. To be completely candid, I modeled it around military operations, of which I was not in the military, but have exposure to. And you would never run an operation without the operational plan. You can't even fight a war without a plan. A lot of people don't miss this point, that if the troops can't get food and water and ammunition on a operation on the back end of this, they can't do the thing. So everything is planned down to the hour in these operations. Why wouldn't we run a business like this? And then I took a model of the enterprise rent-a-car system, which I won't go into. If you want me to comment on, I will. But basically bringing people up from the bottom up and training them so that they know every job in this transaction. So they fundamentally know each thing. So as our pipeline comes up, now we have a whole training loop in it that the people understand this process, because it is new. A lot of the people some people who we have brought into the company didn't want to be part of it because it's just too different. It's a very different approach.
And so you're growing your own people. I mean, you're hiring with this mindset in place. And instead of going, oh, you've got mortgage knowledge, you've got mortgage knowledge, come over here and implement our plan. You're training your people into this model and mortgages.
That's exactly right, Art. The other thing I'll just add on top of that is the way the market has been the last maybe 7 years. A lot of mortgage business has been refinancings. There've been new homes, but there've been a lot of refinancing. Doing refis is a very, very, very different process than doing new home purchases. And the market we're in now, obviously, blinding flash of the obvious, is not refinancings. Although we actually had a refinancing close today for some reasons, but in general, you're not going to see refinancing. So it's hard. This is a very hard market. And the only way that you're going to execute new home sales is with a really tight operation. And a lot of the people who have been in it, from what my observation from an outsider, is that this is a different market. It requires a different skill set. And that's where we're starting. We're starting with the core business of new home sales. Refinancings will come back. We can argue when, and we can talk about the Fed and whatever you want to talk about. But the bottom line is we're training our people at the hardest, if you will, transactions. So if there is a refinancing boom at some point, that will be easier. And that's generally why we're doing it. It's a philosophy of how you build a business versus just trying to get a bunch of people to work for you on a team and make a living.
Well, and also too, I think that when you look at where we are in the market today, and you're not wrong, there's going to be over 4 million transactions this year in the United States. It's not a huge year as we've had, in 2021, that kind of thing. But there's still, somebody broke it down. I think it's still 11,000 transactions a day.
A day.
Right? It's a little over, whatever. And he even broke it down per hour and per minute. But, the reality of it is that, people coming into this industry, whether it's mortgages or real estate at this point, are walking around holding their heads in their hands going, it's a tough market. It's a tough market.
Yeah.
Well, again, so was coming out of 2008, 2009, 2010. But I will tell you, some of the best brokers I've ever met started in those years and learned to sell real estate because you had to, instead of just take orders. And we went through this period where they had to sell, learn how to sell, be able to sell, convince people to allow them to sell. And then we got into 2020, 21, where people are like, hang a sign, anybody will buy, hang it, And certainly we have had a ton of students come through our school because they wanted to take advantage of that boom. So no complaints there from our side, but you got to now nose to the grindstone and learn how to sell real estate. And it sounds like what you're proposing and what you've put in place is it's a method to help people, to help brokers, real estate brokers in this market and going forward, because we've got an extra team member on our team that we're not paying. So it's not coming out of our pocket. There's no cost associated with it. There's great opportunity cost, it appears, right? But there's no in my business plan, I'm not taking money out of my pocket for those leads as if I was by paying, the aggregators and I don't even want to name some of the companies that people pay for leads, right? And so the fact is that if I'm hearing you right, your guys are going to become part of my team as a real estate salesperson, broker, agent, and help by generating leads that I might be able to generate, but certainly I'd be over here doing something else while they're over there generating leads for me.
That's a great way to summarize it, Art. And we're going to be that outsourced. We have multiple people on a transaction. So I'll give you an example. We were in contract with a agent, and he was going away for the weekend on a vacation with his wife. He was worried about the customer, basically just staying in the transaction, a lot of stuff going on with the house and et cetera. And we were like, hey, no problem, man. We're going to call that customer every day for you. What message do you want? We're going to make sure that that customer is happy and they're serviced. And we are an outsourced function of your team. No cost associated with this. I mean, we're in contract. We're motivated to get to the buyer to the table. And that's the attitude. And we're going to go that extra mile to be that outsourced person that you would either have to share a percentage of if you were that worried, I imagine, or you're going to have to hire some sort of associate to work for you, which is going to cost you money of which you would need to train, which means that would take your time and you're not going to do that the last minute, et cetera. So we are truly an outsourced team. I don't know how else to have a partnership with another person in business if you're not willing to do that. And maybe some people are, but most people we've seen just aren't. The reaction we get, Art, I haven't been in it, right? But the reaction we get is like, holy cow, I can't believe you're doing this. And my answer is, why wouldn't I do this? I'm not from the industry. Just a business person coming into this is saying, Art, why wouldn't I help you? If this is our customer,
Right.
And I think it's that approach. And for me, I don't see it any differently. For people in the industry, it's been very different. But I'm only commenting from the reactions that we get. And I'm just saying, I don't even understand why it wasn't like that. Now, I will say that my premise to go into the industry and bet was that based on what I'd seen, I knew it wasn't like that. But it is surprising still to keep hearing it from people like, oh my God, I can't believe it.
Certainly that was my reaction.
No, it was.
When we were talking, I'm like, all right, Brandon, what's the catch?
You did say that.
I know. And that's because, I've been around a long time. I've seen a lot of different, companies come and go. And, the thing is that what I find interesting about this is that it's your program is the customer of your program is the real estate agent. And we've got our customers, our clients, which are the people that are going to buy and sell. But by making me your customer, you're going to be part of my team. And as I hear you, you're going to be working so that I can increase my business, which ultimately will help you increase your business.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly how we talk about it internally. We have two customers. They're equally important, period. Everybody, the customer who's buying a home and getting a mortgage and doing all this other, and the real estate agent, we need the real estate agent. So I guess the best way to put it, Art, is we need the real estate agent in all businesses that I've been a part of. Services business, venture business. The venture business is very similar. We need transactions. We need deals. We need to invest so that we can build companies and sell them. And it's very similar to the real estate type business. I was in the government services business. I was in the software business. I've never been in business where you wouldn't go out of your way to help a integral part of a transaction, like whatever it takes. So to me, it's just a natural extension of taking those principles that I learned and applying it here. And the fact that, and you laughed, and people laugh because it's true, is anytime I ask is, hey, do you ever meet anybody that buys a house that says that it was the best experience they ever had? They want to do that again? No, everybody comes out of that thing's exhausted, tired, partially confused and dazed. And it's just like an anticlimactic moment when they walk into their house, and it shouldn't be. They should be the most excited they've ever been to be in a new home. And it will create anxiety, like we talked about earlier, but it doesn't have to, they can be stressed, but it could be easy. And if it's easy, then they're just going to be happier. And at the end of the day, we want happy customers. We want happy real estate brokers who work with us, and we want happy end customers who buy homes or investment properties. That's it.
Yeah. And this is why I was excited, Brandon, to have you join me on the podcast, because it is such a unique take on this. And it has such just tremendous upside potential for real estate brokers, agents, salesperson, whatever you are, right? Because, it truly creates that partnership that you want, where it's, each party is helping the other to grow their business. And what else could you ask for as a real estate broker, right? I mean, the biggest question I get coming into school is, when I get out, what do I do? What do I do to generate leads? What do I do? How do I know what other professionals to talk to? And, seemingly your program, addresses that by saying, we're going to work together to make your business bigger, because ultimately it's going to make our business bigger.
And I think it's exactly right, Art. And one of the things that we've discovered, which just through really analyzing how transactions happen, is real estate agents are leaving leads that technically are already those on the table that they don't realize they're leaving. And I don't want to go into the mechanics of how we do that, but they are. And if you're doing that, I just see it as an opportunity. A lot of the times the leads aren't really even that hard for us to get for them. And they're like, what do you mean? That's all you did? Well, it isn't, quote unquote, for those listening, putting air quotes, all we did, because there's some execution required and discipline and scripts and things like that around it. But yeah, it's just really executing on this day after day. And, we all win when that happens. We all win, and our businesses all grow. And that, at the end of the day, I don't know about you, Art, I love doing business, but I also love making money. I'm not going to be shy about that. Like, we're in business to make money. If you want to do a nonprofit, like I support a lot of nonprofits, and I've got a nonprofit foundation that gives money away. But when I'm on the side of building a business and making money, like, let's make customers happy and make some money together.
Yeah, 100%. So you have done proof of concept. You've gone out to certain markets, but you've gone out to markets, you've worked with brokers, and your program has been able to generate leads for those brokers.
It has. It not only has, it does.
Okay.
On a regular basis. Yeah, eventually we're going to put the case studies online. We're actually so early. I think our website's going up this week. I don't know when this is airing, Art, but we haven't even needed a website, quite candidly, because my premise with that, Art, in convincing, for lack of a better way, say, real estate agents to work with us was not all of this sizzle. It was very simple. Return the favor and do what you say. And you know what the funny part, Art, is? They've never asked, where's your website? They've never asked, where's your website? Because it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter when you truly deliver value. And a lot of business is in this business, what I can tell, has traditionally just been relationships. I like Art. I'm going to do business with Art. I like Jane. I'm going to do business with Jane. I want people to do business with us because you may like us for sure. Of course, we need to like each other, but actually because we deliver value to you. And that value that we deliver to you is enough for you to say, you're solving a real big pain point for me. And I want to do business with you because of that. And that's what should convince people, not, being nice and all of that sort of stuff. That's a given for me, but is what we're delivering enough that you solves a problem? It goes back to my second slide, the problem slide. What's the pain point? What's broken, right? I mean, somebody does something, their pain is existing solutions are broken because, and if our solution solves that pain point for them, which is not necessarily a problem with the mortgage person, but they're trying to grow their brokerage, their business, their revenue, whatever they're doing. And if we can do that, then the results speak for themselves.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where, as somebody who's been in this business, watching your success has been interesting over the past few months, to say that and it's working. It's not, it did work. It's not, this is what was working 20 years ago. This is what's working right now. And we could help you do this. And I just, in my head, I see so many different opportunities for our brokers, our salespeople, to be able to utilize your service and really increase their business. I mean, I've told you before, I've had my mortgage guys for 20, 25 years. And, I do like them. And they have done great business for me, meaning they have taken care of my client. They have delivered what they said they were going to deliver. They have taken care of my reputation in giving them that person to work with, right? And I can tell you quite candidly, I can count on this hand the amount of times that I've gotten a lead back, but I wasn't expecting it, because my mindset was, it goes that way, it doesn't come this way. That was the mindset. You give, and if they're giving you, your client, good service, that's the return. Get the closing. It was never in, and I would tell you, we were probably taught this at the beginning. Just get your mortgage guys to do what they say they're going to do. That's the return. You get more deals closed because they're closing. Don't worry about them giving you anything in terms of deals. And your business seems to fly in the face of that. So when you use the word disrupt, and I heard it, I was like, that's what it's doing. It's disrupting a mentality where we grew up with, it's only one way.
Yeah, it basically just changes the game and the team concept. I don't think that, I think some mortgage brokers will tell you they have a team, but when you break it down, do they really have a team? They have themselves in a processor, and that's a single point of failure. We don't, in the military, which I go back to because I study the military and worked with them. They say our 1 is none and 2 is 1. And our team actually has 2 qualified people so that there isn't that failure. And that's what it takes to, especially, I feel a great amount of responsibility to be trusted with someone's biggest asset that they will possibly ever purchase. And they may get another home, right? But this is the biggest single transaction with a lot of money that they're doing. So we want to make sure that doesn't fail. and can't fail. And if you have a system in place with a team, it is very hard for things to fail.
Now, let me ask you, is there any other aspect of this that if you were talking to me for the first time, I didn't know what I already know about you, that you would say to me, here's what you're gonna benefit from our service by fill in the blank.
Our goal is to double your business. And, if people don't want to double their business, we're probably not a good match. We want to build your business. We want your business to be bigger, because the bigger it is, the bigger we all are. In this business, the rising tide lifts all boats if you're both in that ocean. And that's what we're doing. And then someone will say, well, what does that mean? And then I go into the explanation like, hey, we have a team approach. Here's what we do. So we're going to take care of your transaction. There's not a single point of failure. 2 is we're going to get leads for you. How are you going to get leads? And then I break it down and go into exactly what our team does to do that, and exactly the resource that they have when we are working as a team that is an outsourced, you could call it assistant, you could call it whatever you want, that they get access to. And that just doesn't happen in no title company or mortgage broker or insurance person says, hey, Art, yeah, you can use this person to cover XYZ. And here's the other thing that's interesting with this model. A lot of our people that we started with in the beginning here, because I couldn't bring people up from the bottom, sort of prime the pump here, right? But they're real estate agents. That's the irony, is they're not just mortgage brokers. We have a lady who's been a real estate agent for 20 years. She's done everything from new home construction to home sales to listing agent to investments. That brings a different perspective. Now they're not talking to just a mortgage broker. They're talking to a real estate agent who's sat on their side and can actually talk their language, so that when we're in the transaction, they're talking the same language. Like, hey, Art, well, are you negotiating with the seller's agent on this price? Like, what's the strategy? Could you get, do this XYZ? It allows us to better inform the mortgage process by being able to have a conversation with that, like that, and to assist them. That's just a different approach. And, it seems to work. The real estate brokers, agents, they seem to like that. And as a real estate agent, I would. That's like a no-brainer.
100%. I think if anybody is in this industry is looking to double their business, which I know plenty of people, that are like, yeah, but with a plan, and the plan that you have in place, and that goes from being the ooh sphere, like, yeah, maybe I could double my business, to actually becoming a reality. And so I'm excited to see where your company is going to go. I have faith, just based on, you yourself, in terms of all the things that you've done, and you're approaching this from a business person's perspective. Not once in any conversation have I ever heard you say, Art, I love real estate, because, that's my gig, right? I love real estate, right? But you're looking at it from a business person's perspective and say, okay, how can we make this business even better? And you're coming at it from the mortgage point of view. And you obviously have your fingers in a lot of different pies, as you shared with us today. But this seems to be your I don't want to say your baby, but your focus right now, and to build this business so that you are the disruptor.
Oh, absolutely. Art. People say, well, you have you're trying to build a personal holding company. You can't do everything at once. You're absolutely right. And I don't. I get businesses to where they need to be, and I hire competent people to run them, and I still sit at the top and manage it. That's a different approach. That's called a business plan. That's called leveraging your time. And this is taking 95% of my time. And to be honest with you, Art, I actually enjoy it. I love disrupting things, and I love talking to people and hearing the challenges they have in their business and how we could help do that and all make money together. That's fun for me. And in general, the people in this industry are pretty fun. I mean, they're positive people, they're energetic, they're driven. Like, that's a cool group of people to hang out with. So I am enjoying it. We are making it a little more fun. I mean, we wear Hawaiian shirts. That's probably different than most mortgage brokers that you've experienced, but we're gonna make mortgages fun. And it's a serious business, but we're going to make it fun, and we're going to get it done as fast as we can so that everybody gets to the closing table and gets what they want. In fact, saying that you're going to get your customer to the closing table isn't a bad thing. That's great. They get the keys to a new home and they're excited. That's like that. I remember when my wife and I bought our first home and we got the keys and we went back from that closing table and walked in and was like, oh my God, this is ours. I mean, Art, it was like, it can change your life. And that's pretty exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, it does change your life. It absolutely changes. And I have been definitely honored in many instances to help people change their life. You know, I always say, when people say, what do you do? I say, I help people get their piece of the American dream, because home ownership is it.
No, it is. I mean, I don't want to go down that route, but I love America. I mean, there's no other country in the world that offers the opportunities that we have here. I'm not saying we don't have problems, we don't have disagreements, and people who want to get caught up on that ought to go read history and figure out that that's been going on since we started. They should read the Federalist Papers. Like, even the founders of our country debated deeply and disagreed to get where we are. That's part of our magic. That's not a weak point. That's a positive thing. But to be able to own a home and to own some land or even a little backyard like we do here in California, like, that's really cool. And when you can provide a service, when you have a business that provides a product or service that makes someone smile at the end, that's a pretty good feeling.
That's a great feeling. Absolutely. Now, let me ask you this. I ask all our guests, can I put all your information in the show notes?
I'll give you, I actually just want you to put my exact email right in the show notes. It's my real email. I read it. That's the way we do business here. And that would be the best way to get in touch if someone's interested in learning more and potentially working with us.
That'd be great. And Brandon, again, knowing how valuable your time is, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking time out of that schedule. As you can see behind Brandon, if you're looking at us on on YouTube, Brandon also has his own podcast, The Edge, right?
Well, it's actually called the Brandon White Show now.
Oh, it is. All right. Sorry. It was for a long time. It was The Edge.
It was a long time, The Edge. And I changed it because there were too many edges, Art.
All right. There's only one Brandon White.
Well, there's a lot, but the Brandon White Show is the only Brandon White Show. And it's much easier to Google. So
got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So if you want to do, and the purpose of the podcast is to same thing, learn from business leaders, how they got to where they are.
I talk a lot about business, and I talk a lot about business, and sometimes business isn't just about business, right? It can be about mindset. It can be about all these other things. And that's what the Brandon White Show has allowed me to explore. But we have incredible entrepreneurs. We have, there's a lot. I had an A-10 pilot on, which is a warthog. You can learn a lot from an A-10 fighter pilot about how to approach business. And that's the type of people that I've been having on the show to talk about those types of things. But I'm so grateful for you even inviting me on. You've been in this business forever. You are a legend in it. And I'm just honored to be here, to be honest with you, and grateful for the invitation.
Well, no, it's absolutely been my pleasure. And I'm sure our listeners are going to get a tremendous amount of value from your business plan approach. For sure, people, business plan. Get the book. Link is in the show notes. Number one. And number two, this disruption of the mortgage industry, this concept that you're going to be part of my team as a broker, I am excited, as you could probably all tell, by that, because I'm like, we're going to apply it to my business. We're going to apply it to my students' businesses, and we're going to show how these people, how your team can become part of our team and really make this a better business, doubling your business. I love that. I love it. So thank you so much, Brandon, for being here. We really appreciate it, and keep rocking, man. Just keep it going. I love the Hawaiian shirt. I've got a bunch upstairs, but you look better in it than I do.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Art. Really grateful.
Thanks again to our sponsor, I Love Real Estate School. Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Roundtable podcast. I hope you enjoyed hearing from our amazing guests, and you picked up some valuable tips and insights that you can use in your own real estate business. If you liked what you heard today, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. Your support means the world to us and helps us bring you more great content in the future. And if you're an agent who's interested in coaching, I'd love to hear from you. You can contact me directly through my website, myrealestatesalesmanager.com, or connect with me on social media. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you the next time in the Real Estate Roundtable podcast.